The devil's on the loose and he's dancing with the mummy.
Deep from the bowels of the Macabre Theater Laboratory, we bring you Macabre Cast. There is nothing wrong with your streaming service. You are exactly where you should be. Where the slush puppy machine is always on and cold. Your favorite horror mag is on the rack, discreetly displayed between Women's Wear Daily and Cosmopolitan. I'm your host, Dark Mark, along with my mold-riddled counterpart, Karis, the Little Mummy, here to bring you the latest episode of Macabre Cast, where we'll be dropping R's where they belong and adding them where they don't. Yeah! Newbies welcome, regulars welcome back, and worcifers, get out of here! This is a safe space for those of us still watching the skies, hoping the other world visitors will stop and be friendly. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, follow, and share my show on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and, when I'm not violating infantile community standard rules, TikTok. Tell friends to do the same, even that guy who scheduled his break at work to align with yours, so he can further state his case on the way and why the earth is flat. And we've all been duped. Yeah, that guy. If you wish to interact with fellow monster kids, follow the Facebook page, Macabre Theater. It's there where you can send me a voice message through Messenger and participate on a future show. A link can be found in the description of this episode. Or, if you'd prefer, send me an email at macabretheater666@gmail.com. Macabrecast in all of its gory glory begins now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Adoro il cast macabro.
Macabre.
How was your 4th of July, Doc?
Very good, Karis. How was yours?
Oh, I can't complain. So the other day, I see this kid sitting on a stoop eating candy by the handful. This old guy goes walking by and he says, "Hey, little boy, I hope you know that candy is bad for you and will ruin your appetite for dinner." So the little boy says, "Well, I don't know about that, but my grandpa lived till he was 102. The man says, "Wow, by eating candy?" The kid says no, by minding his own business.
And on that note, it's time for horror news. Robert Eggers' werewolf trailer has dropped. The newest of many new shark movies, The Devil's Mouth, drops on Netflix July 29th. And judging from the trailer, is nothing to hurry up and see. The Minions invade 1920s Hollywood in search of finding creatures for their monster movie in Minions and Monsters. You know, we always talk about that gateway film for youngins to get into horror. Well, here you go. And that's it for horror news. And Draven agrees. Draven the blood-vomiting bat. Children of the night, what messes they make. In 1976, the Viking project was launched, the first U.S. space mission to land a ship safely on the surface of Mars, the Red Planet, and return with hopefully images of the planet's surface. This is where elements essential to life on Earth were detected. In 1977, I was 8 years old. Many discussions and books elaborated on how one day man would travel to Mars. That year in the movies, we were introduced to George Lucas's space opera Star Wars. Nothing like it had ever been seen before. What seemed like overnight, outer space was all the rage. And 6 months later, Spielberg released Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We were inundated. Practically every magazine on the rack had pictures of saucers and aliens. Spielberg encouraged us to watch the stars. Be on the lookout for little green men. And then in 1978, the show Project UFO began, and sadly would only last 2 seasons. It was about 2 government agents investigating sightings of extraterrestrials and unidentified flying saucers.
Horror chap Matt knows all about monsters. He said they were coming to get me tonight.
Hey, Doc Mark, Little Cars, and all the Monster Kids hang out the theater this week. It's Horror Chap Matt back again. Well, Doc, I always said a week without Macabre cast is like a week without sunshine, and I've been gone myself for a couple of weeks, so let's get back to it. You asked if anybody has seen Something Bad Is Going to Happen. My wife and I did watch this thing by the Duffer Brothers. I thought it was good. I thought the pacing was okay. Probably 2 episodes too many for me. I would have rather seen a more slimmed down version, maybe 6 episodes. The last couple episodes when the action started to ramp up was pretty good. Overall, it was definitely worth a watch. Their other show they executive produced, it's called The Burrows, which is also on Netflix. Kind of the same boat. We have one more episode to go. Instead of kids on this one, kids and teens, it stars retirees trying to solve a mystery out in the middle of the desert. I think they're in Arizona. I can't remember right now. At a retirement community. Pretty cool landscapes, and the story is interesting. But again, this one's really slow. Alfred Molina and Gina Davis are in this, and it's been fun. But again, it's not something that I'm rushing and can't wait to get through. Like say Widow's Bay. That show was our favorite show in the last couple of years. I will say it's the only program in probably 10 years that we would rush home and watch it the night it premiered. That hasn't happened in forever. We've always just said we'll wait till tomorrow, whatever. But both of us really love Widow's Bay, and very glad it's getting a 2nd season. What other thing did I have? Oh, Tubi. We talked about Tubi. I love the idea of Tubi. I love the horror selection. I like the old school feel of it. I love that it's free. Honestly, the commercials don't bother me because you're not paying for it. It's like TV used to be. The ads were how they paid their bills, and that was part of the game. It's really been discouraging. I was just talking about it with some friends and family over the last weekend about how when Amazon first came out, Netflix first came out, like the whole deal behind these streaming services was no more commercials. And that was just part of the package. And now, slowly but surely, I believe it was it Amazon? I think Amazon was the first one to do it, where all of a sudden you're watching shows and they are throwing ads in there. And you're paying for no ads, and I get it. Live TV, you're always going to have ads. So if you're watching like a sporting event, the ads are still going to be there. But in the middle of a random episode, it takes an ad break, and they are charging you more now to not have ads. And even when you do that, I know Paramount's guilty of this, Peacock as well. Before their show starts, I think actually now that I'm thinking about it, all of them do it. They'll show you a little commercial for something that they have coming out. And I'm like, no, I I pay for no ads. Enough of the ads. Like I shouldn't even have to hit the skip button. But Tubi, it doesn't bother me. Like I said, it's free, and that's how they pay their bills. And I've brought this up before. Joe Bob has revealed that when he is done with his Shudder contract, that they are going to announce what their next move is. I am secretly hoping, well, not secretly because I'm telling everybody, I'm really hoping that they move to Tubi, and the format of the show now won't be called The Last Drive-In, but it'll be something similar, I'm sure. The format of the show is perfect for it because as much as I love Joe Bob cutting into the movie and giving us all the fun facts and the gags and the pranks and everything else, there really is no need to stop the movie other than to interrupt it with some Joe Bob and Darcy. So Tubi, with the commercial breaks, he has ad breaks, and he will do his bumpers or stingers, whatever they're called, before and after the commercials. I think it's a perfect home for him to land in. That's all I got for this week, Dark. Glad you had a great show, and I look forward to next week's show. As always, make mine Macabrecast.
It's always nice when we can hear from Bi-Weekly Matt.
It is always a pleasure whenever we can hear from Horror Chat Matt. He adds like a wholesomeness to the show. So you really shouldn't talk like that and give him names like Bi-Weekly Matt. Matt tries to be here when he can. And most often, he is. Yeah, I'm surprised a little, Matt, that you didn't care so much for something very bad is going to happen. I thought the way it was set up, I felt as each episode ended, I couldn't wait to see the next one. And I really do got to check out that Widow's Bay. I am interested. I do have Apple TV, although I never watch it. And I just got to get on there and check it out. And I wonder if the other monster kids agree with me about your wholesomeness and that you add to the show. Do you love Horror Chat Matt, or do you loathe him? No, that's an unfair question. Always great to hear from you, Horror Chat. And we hope to hear from you again real soon.
You are listening to Dark Mark's Macabrecast, episode 163. We are not alone.
Welcome to Cobwebbed Classics, where I dust off a lost, forgotten, or just plain unappreciated film and introduce it to, or maybe just remind you about it, so your spooky Saturday night might run a little creepier. This week's Cobwebbed Classic is 1956's Forbidden Planet, directed by Fred Wilcox, starring Leslie Nielsen, Walter Pidgeon, and Anne Francis. Forbidden Planet is the film that heavily influenced the entire genre of science fiction, most notably the TV show Star Trek. It introduced monster kids to Robbie the Robot. Does the romantic subplot with the submissive woman scream 1950s? Sure it does, but there's a lot of dated stuff. You can either roll with it or roll on. In the 23rd century, a starship goes to investigate a colony's silence on a distant planet. They find two survivors and an intimidating robot. The survivors are Dr. Morbius and his daughter. Apparently, Dr. Morbius has discovered a great power that he has no intention of sharing with anyone. The poster suggests an evil, out-of-control robot carrying a girl trying to get away, but no such scene occurs in this film. This was the first science fiction picture to get a large budget. The genre had never been taken seriously by producers before. The critical success proved that this was what audiences wanted. And if done right, with the money behind it, it could be very successful. In 2017, the Robbie the Robot costume, when it sold for $5.375 million. Gene Roddenberry, creator of the original Star Trek, has been quoted as saying this film was a major inspiration for that series. Taglines for this gem are as follows.
It's out of this world. MGM takes you on an amazing adventure into outer space. One of the greatest sci-fi masterpieces of all time.
1956's Forbidden Planet is this week's
Cobwebbed Classics.
Spielberg put a twist on the evil aliens taking over the world with his hit film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The little green men were little, but they weren't green, and they were friendly, and only wanted to learn about us. We communicated not with speech, but with music. However, a year later, Philip Kaufman would direct a remake of the 1956 classic Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where the evil aliens hell-bent on taking over the world come in the form of seeds that would grow into pods, and when you fell asleep, would clone your body as you rotted into dust. But it was in 1979 when the creme de la creme invaded our movie screens. Ridley Scott's creature feature in outer space, Alien. Horror meets sci-fi. In space, no one can hear you scream. Stop and be friendly was a thing of the past. And speaking of things, in 1982, John Carpenter gave us his version of Howard Hawks' harrowing tale, The Thing. Now, monster kids who were still watching the skies were watching like their life depended on it.
Way cool. It's Chicago Tina.
Hey, Dark Mark and Karis, the little mummy, and all you kids out there in Monsterland. I just finished watching episode 162 of your show, and I thought I'd call in to give you my opinion of the movie Obsession. I watched it the other night with a couple of friends of mine. We saw it in the theater. And I got to say, I didn't like it as much as you did. I thought it was okay. Although we all agreed that the girl who played Nikki was very good. I've heard a lot of people say that she was too annoying, but that's the job of an actor who's supposed to be annoying, right? So she was very good. And I right off the bat, you mentioned on episode 162 that they were all friends that worked in the music store. That looked like a pretty small music store to have 4 employees, but that's, whatever. Anyway, also in 162, I think it was Scary Larry who mentioned the movie The Dark. I can't wait. I'm going to watch that. That sounded pretty good. And also, your topic this week about situational horror. Well, obviously, I think the biggest one that comes to mind would have to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you could change that, there you go. But my favorite scene in any movie, in any horror movie, that was a situation that somebody got themselves into that, hands down, is the movie Silence of the Lambs, when Agent Starling rings that bell. It's like, no, and it's just what comes after that. I don't like to tell you what happens, in case somebody didn't see it. I doubt it, but you never know. That whole scene, that's why it won so many awards. The acting, the whole situation that she was walking into, and then the way it turned. That was a great scene in the movie. But I feel like I've seen millions of movies that were really good with situation horror, but mostly in the 70s. But I can't think of one off the top of my head. I probably should have waited a few days and called in. Anyway, we're going to see The Evil Dead Burn next. But we have to see Evil Dead Rise first, because I didn't realize that they weren't sequels from the original Evil Dead movies. But you mentioned that in your show. I've seen, all the first Evil Dead movies and played the video game all the way to completion. And so, I was kind of excited about seeing this. And you said there was going to be another one called The Evil Dead Wrath. That sounds interesting, especially if it takes place in 1972, because that's my thing. So, but anyway, I enjoyed the show last week, and I'll be calling in again. And hopefully I'm possibly, I can't make any promises, but we're thinking about coming to see you in Springfield at the MGM. And I wish we could have gone out to Ohio, but I had other obligations. I hope everything's well with everybody. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Very surprised, Chicago Tina, about your thoughts on Obsession. That movie really caught me off guard. It was the kind of film that, once you get past the suspension of disbelief with some of the stuff, it has the hair and what little bit that I have on the back of my neck stand up. Because I think of toxic relationships or obsessive relationships. And as I mentioned last week when I reviewed it, mental illness and the people who have to deal with people like this in their lives. I found it absolutely horrifying, that part of it. And I really enjoyed it. So I was surprised. And I know that you said you really liked Backrooms, which I have yet to see. And I know the new Faces of Death will be on Shudder in July. I think it drops July 10th. And I know Horror Chat was a little mixed with that. I am definitely game for seeing that just based on what I've read. And I know that it's really nothing like the original Faces of Death that I grew up with as a kid. So I'm looking forward to that. And obviously when I see it, I will give my review. Great hearing from you, Chicago Tina. Hope to hear from you more often. Take care.
You are listening to Dark Mark's Macabre Cast, episode 163. We are not alone.
In 1950, Ray Bradbury published a story called The Martian Chronicles. As I said earlier, from 1976 to around 1979, there was much talk about Mars, the red planet, and a possible mission one day to arrive there. So in 1980, NBC turned it into a miniseries and aired it over 3 consecutive nights. This was an exciting time for an 11-year-old who had spent the last 3 years scouring the skies for spacecraft. Director Michael Anderson, Academy Award winner for Around the World in 80 Days, put Rock Hudson, Darren McGavin, the Night Stalker himself, and Bernie Casey in this epic event. A story that tells the tale of Colonel Wilder's expeditions to discover the secrets of Mars. Now, the majority of people found this miniseries painfully boring. Not this monster kid, though. Not with the belief that this journey was only years away. Well, so much for that, I guess. I own this miniseries on Blu-ray, and I realize how cheesy some stuff looks and how dated the film as a whole appears. But when I put this thing on, the 11-year-old who was still watching the skies comes out of me as a wave of nostalgia consumes my very being.
Do you want to participate in Dark Mark's Macabre Cast? But you don't want to send a voice message? Maybe you don't like the sound of your own voice, or you're shy. Send Dark an email. He can read your thoughts on the show. Your opinion matters. Send Dark an email at macabretheater666@gmail.com.
Goditi questo episodio de Cast Macabro.
Thank you, Maria Monstalia, for telling our Italian friends to enjoy this episode of Macabre Cast. There are many who dismiss the notion of life on other planets, and to each his own. So when I say what I'm going to say, I mean this in the nicest way. It is ignorant to think that we are the only life in this galaxy or the next. Space is a vast place. So vast, it's hard to process. Life has already been determined to be on Mars. I mean, not the type of life that's filing their tax returns anytime soon, but life regardless. I hope that if we are ever visited by little green men in my lifetime, I hope that they're the kind from Spielberg's Close Encounters film, as opposed to Ridley Scott's Alien. Until next time, Monster Kids. Beware the moon. Keep clear of the moors. But most of all, remember, be good to yourself. This is Dark Mark, signing off. See you soon, I hope. This is a Macabre Theater production.
Subscribe.